Life experiences shape who we are. Thriving in challenges, pushing boundaries, rising above and beyond sets bold leaders apart, taking charge in adversities and leading with courage. On the cornerstone of exemplary leadership, Sohar International pioneers in setting industry benchmarks, scaling new heights, and making its mark. With a purpose to inspire the local community, Sohar International's Chairman's Forum, ViewPoints, provides a unique platform that hosts global visionaries and generates pioneering ideas. In its 14th edition and 9th virtual session, ViewPoints hosts a recognized leader, Ms. Mary Louise Gorno, Managing Director of Ingenuity International, specializing in organizational governance, succession planning, and leadership issues. With a rich life experience, Ms. Mary Louise Gorno delves into the topic, step by step, a journey to now.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, I would like to wish all our viewers a very happy and prosperous New Year, bringing with it a sense of recovery and tipping point for the world as we progress forward. Thank you all for joining us today as we mark a very exciting and interesting viewpoint session of the year 2022. ViewPoints is a platform has consistently endeavored to encourage and inspire Omani youth, new age entrepreneurs and professionals by exposing them to global personalities and international best practices. It has set a benchmark as a noble thought leadership initiative in the Sultanate and was most recently honored with the coveted Oman Economic Review Business Excellence Award for creating a world-class knowledge platform at the recent Business Summit in 2021. New Year's are usually greeted with challenging resolutions, accompanied by endless opportunities and underlying promises. What is important, however, is our ability to capitalize and make the most of such opportunities with sheer determination and focus. I strongly believe that when the roadmap is strategically aligned and steered by robust leadership, we are halfway home. Today, good leadership is absolutely pivotal to thrive in a world of increasing complexity and accelerating change. This is specifically true to a visionary leader who sees the potential of how the world should exist and takes brave steps to transform vision into reality. Such leaders understand that leadership is not about themselves, but the ability to transform others. Such leaders show us how harnessing positive energy towards a meaningful cause has everlasting effects. Excellent strategy, efficient execution, and robust risk management alone will not ensure success in the complex world we live in today. The secret ingredient to integrate everything together in harmony boils down to effective leadership. Today's viewpoint session, titled Step by Step, Journey to Now, delves into this intriguing subject. Our guest speaker for tonight's session is the Managing Director of Ingenuity International and leads the CEO and board practice for many Fortune 500 companies. She has joined the executive search profession with more than 2 decades of experience in marketing, media, and strategic planning. She specializes in organizational governance, succession planning, and leadership issues. Please join me in welcoming our guest speaker, Ms. Mary Lou Gorno, a prominent name in the field of executive search. In today's session, she will discuss the importance of courageous leadership in the present corporate setup. Mary Lou Gorno will share from her life journey and how it has defined the person she is today, discussing the importance of courageous leadership and engaging in conversation about living a life of purpose and consequence. Before I hand over the virtual floor to our esteemed guest speaker, I would like to kindly remind our viewers they can also take part in today's discussion by typing their questions in the designated Q&A box displayed on the screen. preferably with their name and designation. We will try to address as many questions as time permits during the latter half of today's virtual session. Mary Lou, over to you.
Thank you. Mohammed, thank you for inviting me today. It is with great pleasure that I have an opportunity to speak with you. And I'm looking forward to a very lively and engaging conversation, both from your comments and your questions. I'd like to start by acknowledging and thanking Mohammed for his many leadership roles. I know one intimately. He is the distinguished board member of Eisenhower Fellow, and I know of his commitment to inspiring leaders around the world to effect positive change and to make it a better world. And we are all grateful for his commitment and his success in achieving those goals. So today, I would like to speak with you as a global business leader, as a woman, and as one of the first in my family's generation to attend college and graduate school. Each role gives me a distinctive view on the thoughtful, courageous, and committed leadership. Each role gives me a perspective on how to live a life of purpose and consequence. And all of the roles give me an opportunity to make an impact. And my hope is that I do. So let me start at the beginning of the journey. I was raised in an immigrant family in Detroit, Michigan. My grandmother could not read or write. She dialed the telephone based on a color code created by my family. My French-Canadian mother was a teacher. My Italian father dropped out of college during the Depression to financially support his extended family. This was not unusual. I was given an opportunity that my father and his family did not have. That was to obtain a college degree and a graduate degree. And I will always be grateful. Why? Because the educational experience dramatically changed the trajectory of my life. It provided me with the tools of analysis, of understanding, and appreciating complexity that has served me well throughout my life, and it has been critical to my career. As a young woman growing up in a major metropolitan area in the US, Detroit, there were very few women in key leadership positions. There were no mentors. There were no role models for us. Professional women had to journey alone. We had to carve out our own path. It is hard to dream of an opportunity if you cannot see it. It is hard to dream of an opportunity if no one is encouraging you to realize it. But in spite of these hurdles, I am very grateful to have been part of the changing role and stature of women in the marketplace. It was a remarkable time, and we all learned from it and pass on these lessons to the next generation of women. Today, in my professional life, I recruit senior executives for large, complex, global companies, as Mohammed mentioned. I have observed, I have hired, and I have also been the beneficiary of great leadership. Great leaders understand the importance of history in culture in any given situation. They appreciate diversity in all of its forms. Great leaders celebrate change. And with a steady hand, they have an unwavering belief and commitment in their vision. They cannot do it alone. They must have a team to help them achieve their goal. And importantly, great leaders make an impact on our world. There is another cherished role in my life that I'd like to talk to you about because it gives me an additional perspective on leadership in making a difference. In my role as Vice Chair of the Board of Trustees of the University of Chicago, and in my role as a trustee of Eisenhower Fellows, we strive to help and make a difference in students' lives, in professional lives, and young entrepreneurs' lives. As trustees, we invest our time, our knowledge, and our financial resources to ensure that all young students, professional, and entrepreneurs with talent and promise are able to take the advantages of all the opportunities without barriers. This may be some of the most important work that we will ever do. We live in a time of constant change. We must explore new breakthrough ideas and learn from and partner with others halfway around the world. The world's most important challenges: sustainable energy, reforming education, reducing poverty, addressing the global pandemic, are complicated and stubborn. With the power of innovative ideas, persistence, and courageous leadership, we will make an impact in ways that are hard to imagine this evening. It is always inspiring to witness human excellence. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to give you a little snapshot on my journey and what has impacted and influenced me throughout my life. And I look forward to hearing about your questions and having a conversation with you. Thank you, Mohammed.
Really, thank you. That was fantastic, quick on your really amazing journey. If I can start really by asking you a question on what you mentioned about you were raised in an immigrant family in Detroit, have gone to achieve success in various fields. What were the influences that have shaped your life and career?
Well, I think I learned some very important lessons from both my mother and my father. One was a belief in yourself, and they infused us with confidence, not arrogance, but our ability to achieve what our dreams were. They didn't know how, Mohammed, to help us achieve our dreams. When I applied to the University of Chicago, my father could not help me do that, but he could tell me that if that's what I wanted, do not stop until I achieve that. Another thing that I think is very important that they infused in all of my family is authenticity. Be real, be who you are. You are unique and take advantage of it. And if I may tell one story, I was applying to the University of Chicago for graduate school in the Department of Economics, and I received my GMAT scores, and they were disappointingly low. And I went to my father and I said, these scores indicate I'm not only not going to get into the University of Chicago, but that I'm not very smart. And he said to me, love, if you believe those scores, that you are not very smart, you are creating a barrier for yourself for the rest of your life. You must believe in yourself. Well, ironically, 2 weeks later, I received a note from Princeton Testing saying that they had sent me the wrong scores and that the new scores were significantly higher. And I looked at them and I thought to myself, I might be able to get into the University of Chicago and I might be able to achieve my dreams. So again, I went back to my father with unbridled enthusiasm and great pride and said, look at these scores. And he said, love, you didn't learn the lesson. Those don't say you're smart and the other ones didn't say you were dumb. You have to determine that and carve your own path with your skills. And I thought that was a very meaningful lesson for me in my life.
That's fantastic. That's really fantastic. Now, you talked about courageous leadership, and you've really been a proponent of such a theme. Why is it important in your mind for leaders to take on challenges in unfamiliar circumstances?
I think by definition, leaders are ones that are willing to identify a difficult problem and advance it and see how they can get a solution to it. And I shouldn't say run from it, but willing to take the risk to see if they can solve it. They're problem solvers at the very heart of their soul. They see a problem, they want to fix it. And it does take courage to do this. And it cannot be done alone. It should not be done alone. It should be done by persuasion, contribute to shaping the idea. But I have been the beneficiary of times in a meeting, and the greatest compliment, Mohammed, that I can give someone that is in a meeting, when I say to them, the meeting would have had a different outcome if you had not been there, that they were willing to step out, willing to say something that might not have been agreed by the whole group, but to bring them together to say, this is what we must do, and let's try. So that's how I define courageous leadership. I also added a word that I mentioned earlier. Leaders, courageous leaders, successful leaders are authentic. People know who they are and they want to believe in them. And there's no ambiguity about who they are, what they're trying to accomplish, and the shared values they have with the team.
Fantastic. Marilu, you also have spoken often about living a life of purpose. And in this context, what would be your message to youngsters who are embarking on their careers?
Well, when I was a young woman, I'll give you another example. I remember I was making $10,500 a year. And Mohammed, I didn't think I could spend it all in one place. And I told my father that. So I was going to save it. And he said to me, I think you should take a small amount of that and give it to something that you believe in, a mission that you can follow and that you can contribute, whether that be higher education, whether it would be dealing with education or poverty in the community of Chicago. But it is important for you to get engaged. My answer, of course, was, I'm going to wait until I have a more substantial income. And my dad said, you'll never reach that goal. You either give now as a small amount. He always said, you can look at someone's checkbook and you can see how old this is. Today, you would look at their Google account and you can tell their values. So those are the things that I think are important to get involved in something you believe. It doesn't have to take time, a lot of time. It doesn't have to take a lot of money. It does take commitment and passion.
Yeah. Even if it was very little. Huh?
Exactly. Because you're in the formative stage of your career and you don't have a lot of discretionary time.
Right. Right.
But if you don't do it now, following my father's example, you won't do it in the future. When will you have enough money? When will you have enough time to shape someone else's life as yours has been shaped?
Marilu, the diversity, inclusion, and equity and inclusion are a big subject now, and in you know, you're in the right really place to see this and see the dynamics around this discussion. Are we sending the right messages? Are we really impacting the workplace, particularly as we come out of COVID?
Well, I think we've made some very significant steps. I don't have clients that say to me anymore, I'd like a diverse portfolio of candidates. They say, these are the skill sets, these are the people's mindsets, this is how I want them to think. And we need a diversity of thought around the table because they know how important that is. But it is just starting in terms of changing that. But I believe the best organizations, Mohammed, and there's data to support this, celebrate differences. I have always found whenever I have a difficult problem, if I put the best thinkers around the table, as diverse thought process as I can. They will challenge the ideas and we will come out with a better one.
Yeah.
So to answer your questions, we're taking the first steps. We continue, and we always have, we have to continue, but we have to look at it in terms of diversity in all of its forms and encourage that and celebrate that and not close that down.
So how difficult was it, or how challenging was it for someone like you, to grow and make your achievement when there weren't really many women leaders at that time, and no role models, maybe in enough numbers? How did that work, and how challenging was that?
Well, to be very candid, it was challenging, very challenging. It was challenging both on a personal basis and as a professional basis.
Right.
Going back, I'm talking a lot about my father. You can see what a great influence he had in my life. But he believed that a woman should stay in the home until they're married. And then I could step out and have a career. I said, Dad, I could be living here in perpetuity. This is not a good business decision for you. He didn't mean it quite that way, but he did believe that the family was a very important foundation, and he wanted to make sure that I was not only pursuing a career, but I could pursue something that would provide me the economic support if I had to become, as he would refer to, the major breadwinner. So on one personal side, he celebrated my successes, but always was cautious to say, make sure you get a teaching degree, make sure you have a professional skill in case you have to be self-sufficient.
Right.
On the other side, Mohammed, women, there were very few women in business. And my job, I thought, was to not present myself as a woman in business, was to present myself as a business person and to be a problem solver and to get the job done. And I found very quickly people celebrated what I was contributing and forgot that I was a woman. I didn't want to hide that. I wanted to celebrate it. But first and foremost, I wanted to lead as a problem solver, a thinker. To my boss, I could get the jobs done that would help him advance what his goals were. But there's no question I was the first one and the only one sitting in the room. Today at the University of Chicago, there may only be very few people on the women on the executive committee. We're encouraging that. But there were a lot of stumbles along the way. And I'll tell you one story. I was working with Procter & Gamble, Mohammed, and I did have somebody who was helping me. And he suggested that I not put down my name, Mary Louise Gorno. He said, just put down M.L. No one needs to know you're a woman. So yes, it was challenging, but like anything else in life, once you've taken that hurdle, you are invigorated and you can turn around and help someone else take that hurdle with you.
I mean, this is really very interesting because, I get people from the region here and youth and say, is this challenging just in our region? And I say, no, this is really global for, women and women leaders have really gone through this wherever they are. It's in many ways, there isn't one region better than the other. And just because, now you look at certain things in the Western countries, women had to really fight for these positions.
But we were stronger for it. And it really, it is like refining an argument, Mohammed. It makes it better. And we, I think, have a greater sense of belief in ourselves now. A quiet confidence, not an arrogance.
Right. Marilu, your interest in art is really very interesting. You're the chair of the Chicago Symphony Orchestra, the chair of Smart Museum of Art, Board of Governors. Tell us about that. I mean, how is this association has influenced or given you a different perspective on life?
Well, I think my education has changed how I think about the world, as I mentioned earlier. It's given me tools for analysis and to understand problem solving. Culture, arts, music, I think defines who we are as people. And it is very important to have them as a very important aspect of our cultural community. Without music, without art, I think we are a very poor nation. We are a very poor world. And what I have seen, Mohammed, during the pandemic, and it was counter to what I believed or thought. I thought people would cut back on giving during this time of uncertainty. And that would be prudent to do independent of how many assets you have. But instead, we have seen people be overly generous because they know the role of music in expressing oneself. They know the role of the arts, and it defines us as a community, as a culture, and as part of the world. And it brings peace to people when you can't talk to someone, you have a vocabulary in music.
Right.
So you're always looking, at least I do, for what's the common denominator. And sometimes it's just to bring someone to share this extraordinary gift of music. And then we can start from there.
Very good. I'm going to move now to, there are so many questions from our viewers. The first one is really about what you said you spend most of your time on is really picking leaders and picking the best characters for the C-suite. The question is about, you know, the leader, the CEO, is it born, made? Can one earn those skills, or do you have to inherit them?
Well, first of all, Mohammed, I love how you described the character in the C-suite because you understand my business. There are characters in the C-suite. There's no question. Everybody aspires to be part of the C-suite. And I do think you are born with some natural leadership skills. And like anything else in life, if you are committed to learning more and improving and growing, you can refine them and become a natural leader. And I've witnessed that with people who are very committed. How do they do that? They do that with feedback, 360-degree feedback, feedback from the board of directors, feedback from their clients, feedback from the people that report to them. But if they're genuine about wanting to grow and they're genuine about wanting to achieve what their goals are, leadership is a very important part of it. So I would say it's both. And I rarely have that hybrid answer.
Mm.
Or to say if you are born without it, you can still achieve it. And,
Right.
and it is very, very important. Practice,
So
practice, practice, as Michael Jordan said.
Absolutely. This question is from Aisha Saifi. She's from Oman National Investment Program. And her question is about, as leaders navigate through a rapidly changing world with many moving parts, what are the top lessons a leader should learn from his or her young team of millennials and Generation Z?
That's a very wise question. I think one of the most important things is to, if you have a vision, as a leader does, you must communicate that vision, and you must be consistent about communicating it, and you must get buy-in at all levels of an organization. And there is many studies, as you know, done whether ideas within a corporation come from the top down or the bottom up. And I've seen great success when they come from both. That everybody in the institution knows how they are contributing to achieving that goal, that business objective, that mission, or that vision. And to not communicate it consistently, passionately, is a mistake in helping sell it. So in the best organizations, Mohammed, that I have worked with, if I walk down the aisles and I talk to people, they may not say the exact words, but they all know in a strong culture what they're there to achieve and what they're there to contribute to the mission.
The next question doesn't have a name by it, but it's woman leader and wife mother. These two are demanding roles. How did you manage these roles, or what advice you would give to women to manage and succeed in these roles?
You're right. Our roles are not only to be businesswomen, to be mothers, to be sisters, to be spouses, to be mentors. And I think the last ones are the most important. They leave an indelible mark on your life and someone else's life. So as we always think about, and I do, if I have an extra 10 minutes a day, I can also pick up a phone and call a client at the end of the day. But I have to tell you, frequently I picked up the phone and called my mother and just told her how important she was to me, that the education she gave me, the confidence she infused in me was so important. It's also important to allow that daughter, niece, person that you're close to, guard their dreams, allow them to have a dream and protect those dreams because they are fragile. So to answer the question, we all have demanding roles, but the greatest impact in life, and I think we'll look back and regret if we were not good human beings, good mothers, sisters, spouses, aunts.
Right.
At least that's my belief.
This question is from Yusuf Alvi. Says you have helped build global brands such as P&G, Reebok, Walt Disney.
Mm-hmm.
What does it take to make a company into a global brand?
Well, first of all, I think it takes one vision. You have to know what that brand will represent. No one did that better than Nike. Nike was about having not the right shoe. They were not shoe salesmen. It was the confidence to know and to excel and to reach that standard of excellence. Two, you have to interpret that in every culture that you're in and to make sure how you are interpreting it is faithful to the values of that culture.
Right.
And that is so important because many times you can take a mission or a vision, and when we interpret it in another country, we're not really listening to them or using the right language to use that, and it has different meanings. So I would say first and foremost, have a very broad, important benefit vision for your brand. Two, communicate it very clearly. And three, make sure it reigns and means something culturally to the people all over the world. If you have a strong culture, if you have a strong brand, if everyone knows what it means to be part of this brand, then you have been a great success. I always use the example, and I take it out of business, Mohammed. When someone graduates from the University of Chicago and they're handed a degree, they know what that means. It's not a generic degree. And when they go to an employer knows what that degree means. They're going to be analytical. They're going to challenge ideas. They're going to do it with dignity, not attack the individual. But it's not generic. And that's what's so important. You know what it stands for. You continue to build that, and it is relevant in your culture. These are wonderful questions.
Yeah. Yeah. And the next question, I think, goes from what you've just been talking about, from Vani Khurana. And the question is, when do you think the preparation for being a leader begins in one's career? When does one know that she is ready?
I think preparation starts from day one, is building a sense of self and who you are, and understanding that and understanding how you can contribute. It continues when you have people that can be mirrors for you to say to you, this is what your strengths are. These are areas that you can develop. I remember once, Mohammed, I had one of my first reviews, and it was a stellar review. And I was euphoric. I thought I was a star. I was going to be on my way. And I showed it to someone, and they said to me, this doesn't help you. It tells you what you already know. You need someone to talk to you about what you need to accomplish to do the next step. That's leadership.
Marilu, this question is from Firas Al-Amin. And the question is, do you think it's too late for mothers who left their careers and devoted a decade of their lives to raising their young children to go back to the job market when they are above 40 years old?
No, I do not. There is a unique place for them in the marketplace. They bring a unique set of experiences and skills and sensitivity and empathy that can help build brands.
Right.
And I would say absolutely not. What you're really bringing is a set of experiences to your employer or to your company. And to go back to celebrating differences, if we have a problem sitting around the table, you want different experiences.
Right.
And that is also another form of diversity. So I would strongly encourage someone to do that.
Mariam Al-Farsi, question is there any leadership program you suggest us to take that will support our leadership path?
I don't know if there's a leadership program. I'm a strong advocate, as I know you are, about Eisenhower Fellows. What Eisenhower Fellow does, I think, so well is connect people, connect like-minded people so that they can think about positive change in the world and how to affect that change. That is leadership. And I think about being with like-minded people and learning from them real time in a real situation. And as the Eisenhower Fellows provides, as you know, opportunities to talk with people one-on-one that have had successes so they can share their experience with you. So to me, if you could be part of the Eisenhower Fellows or replicate that in the sense of having opportunities to meet people, talk to them, ask them for 15 minutes of their time to share with you questions you have about how you can succeed and take the next step in leadership. As we started, or you mentioned to me, Mohammed, so well, leadership is learned and it has to be continued every single day. And I go back to Michael Jordan again, practice, practice, practice. Every day I'm thinking, how can I refine this? How can I be a better leader?
Marilu, this question is from Muayyad Shamis Al-Belushi from Oman Air. And his question is, what are the footsteps of success in an organization from your experience? Or do you prefer side business to get tangible experience?
I think you can do it both ways. If you're in the context of a large, complex organization, I think you have to show your willingness to take on more responsibilities, to grow, to take on additional challenges. Some challenges may be a lateral move, but they're going to provide you with what you need for the next step. I would always be asking, Mohammed, is what are the skill sets I need to go to the next level? And how am I going to get them? Sometimes it may look like a step back, a lateral move, or taking time off to learn about a different function of the business. It will enrich you wisely. The other area that talked about, if I understand, is you can come in from the outside with an entrepreneurial experience. There is nothing like the value of entrepreneurial experience. The marketplace gives you responses immediately. You learn quickly. And as I learned many years ago, you can blame no one else usually but yourself, and you learn very, very quickly. So I don't think there's a right or wrong, but in the context of each one, get as many experiences as you can, be open-minded to learning, have a mindset of intellectual growth.
Right. Right.
I think those are the elements that have succeed with people.
Marilu, this question is from Malika Al-Arayman. She asking about COVID and the challenges. COVID challenged us all on many fronts and affected us in different ways. What was the most challenging impact on you personally?
Wow, that's a great question. I will answer that very honestly. It was the frustration I had that in the context of change, I thought I always celebrated change, and I was having trouble with this change and recognizing that the world was going to be a different place. And how could I make an impact in this new world, in a different world? and not just go along with every meeting I had where everyone was predicting what would happen, and stop and think about it is different. The data is different. It says we're going to be making changes. There's no, in my mind, pre-COVID, COVID, post-COVID.
Right.
So how am I going to change? And I don't want to be giving the answers everyone else is giving. I have to dig a little deeper and a little harder. So personally, that was a great challenge for me and an opportunity for growth.
This question is from Nasra Al-Busaidi, and she says, we hear so much about work-life balance strategies for a leader like you. What does that mean?
Well, I think we all have to individually interpret that. But the most important thing is how one defines oneself. And I would say it is like a finance or an investment portfolio. If it's lopsided on one side, it's at the expense of the other. I think it is very, very important to think of our lives as a portfolio of experiences. Experiences in your professional life, experiences in terms of philanthropy and how you're spending your time, experience in terms of your family. And it's not going to always be the same balance. You know how we always have to correct our portfolio because sometimes it gets out of balance, and we see that. But that's what I would encourage. That is what has been a great success to me personally, is when I have had the wisdom to say, I can spend an incremental 2 hours here, but wouldn't I get a greater return if I spent time doing X with my family? So I don't have an answer for you, but I ask you to think about it in that context because it has helped me. And it's like a mobile. There's never any perfect, it keeps moving and it's fluid, but never take your eye off trying to make sure over an extended period of time, you're weighting these things that are important to you.
Right.
Importantly.
Riham Al-Tuqi has a question. Her question is about what advice would you give to women that have reached a point of giving up on their career growth and path? And how can one keep pushing forward to reach it?
Well, that's a very thoughtful question, because I think we've all in our careers reached points where we think the hurdle is too big or this isn't right for me. And I think you have to have confidence in yourself and do an inventory about what are the things you do well and what are the things you do not do well. And it may be this environment isn't right for you, but that does not mean there isn't an environment or an organization that respects your combination of skill sets. And that's very, very important. I'll give you an example in my own professional life. As you all know, advertising is on one side of the table and clients are at the other. If you do not like making recommendations without the absolute power of making the final decision, you're going to be frustrated on the professional services side. If you want to be the final decision maker, if you want to have that final say, I think you have to be what we refer to as the client side. So there are people that I've seen have been frustrated, but they're very good at what they do. They just need to switch, as I say, Super Bowl teams or rugby teams, may I use this more universally. But the big piece of this is not to say you are not a good professional. You have not found the right match of person to place to organization and skill set.
Marilu, this question is from Fatima Al-Ardi, and she's saying, her question is about what is American companies do differently that make them so innovative and creative compared to other companies from other geographies in the world. What is that secret?
And I don't know if I would bifurcate it that clearly with US companies and other companies in the world, but I am intimately involved with companies that do that well, and they encourage risk-taking. They do not punish risk-taking. They celebrate that. And if you have that mindset that you are encouraging people complacency, following along, that is not the answer, and you will not be rewarded. If you look at an organization, I always say this to my clients, Mohammed, you want to know what is being rewarded, what behavior is rewarded, what behavior can you expect to see someone succeed. And if you look at an organization and you see that people are encouraging responsible, intelligent risk, then you know that's an organization that will want you to be innovative and creative and take chances. So there's a variety of ways that you can look at an organization and determine that. That defines culture to me. It comes from the top, and I think it permeates the entire organization. In organizations with stronger culture, this is even clearer to see.
Right. And but do they do any other things, just to take it further, in governance, you think, and reward, in because it is true. I mean, you know, Apple and Google and are all American companies, and so I think there are many young people in the region here who look at it and say, "This is fantastic." What are they? What more things are they doing, do you think?
Well, one of the things I think they're doing is demonstrating flexibility, that they're not rigid with how they do business. And let's just take the conspicuous idea about hybrid working, whether you work from home or work in the office.
Right.
If you are rigid about that, I think it demonstrates the organization will be rigid about being flexible and creating new ideas and celebrating those new ideas. Right. You have to let someone know that it is a dynamic marketplace. You're willing to change. That does not mean you're going to change, not satisfy the objectives, but you will listen to people to see how we can accomplish the mutual objectives. So when I see flexibility in an organization, I was recruiting for a company that always said the senior leadership had to be in that city, in and of that town, in and of the community, and very visible. Well, they came back to me recently and they said, we still think that's right, but that doesn't necessarily mean that person has to be there 100% of the time. We're not going to measure how much time they're there. We're going to measure the impact they have with the community. So that was a completely different, I thought, way of measuring success and encouraging flexibility.
So this question is from Mr. Sana, and the question is, if you look back into your life so far, can you identify the proudest and the happiest moments in your life?
Wow. Well, on a professional side, I would say when I received my first graduate degree, that I had worked very hard to achieve something. I certainly wasn't the greatest economist in the world, but I did know that when you're working for something and you're achieving something, that the discipline, the structure, the commitment, the tireless work, there is the greatest satisfaction in the world. It is truly remarkable. So once you've tasted that, you can go to another part of your life and experience it. To digress for a moment, if I may, Mohammed, in my role as chair of the Chicago Symphony Orchestra, I spoke to the orchestra members recently. And I was asked by so many people, what are you going to say? And what I said to them was, I was a young student in economics at the University of Chicago. I would get on a train and then a bus, and I would come down in the middle of the day and buy the cheapest tickets, $7 in the third balcony. But why did I do that? Because I was inspired by watching excellence. And watching what they did inspired me to go back and work hard and to try to accomplish that in the context of my own life. So that is a very memorable time. Another time I feel, to go to the opposite end, and there have been others, is recently I had the opportunity to be part of the search committee to select the new president at the University of Chicago. That was a very daunting task.
Yeah, I bet.
Because you have to stop right in the beginning and think, who are we as an institution? What do we want to be? How will we be distinctive? What are the resources, scarce resources that we're going to put against this. And then you talk to the past leaders. I had the great fortune to talk to Hannah Gray, one of the first women in higher education in a research institution, Don Randall, Bob Zimmer, Hugo Sonnenschein, who has now passed away, and said to them, share with us your lessons learned. What did you learn? So it was an opportunity to learn, to shape the future, and to find a person whose values matched the institution, but also had that same ambition we did. And 8 people, all CEOs and faculty, came together in one voice. They said it couldn't be done. Yes, it could be. It was a remarkable experience and a privilege for me. It was a once in a lifetime experience.
Fantastic, fantastic. So this question is from Badr Al-Muharbi, and he's asking that you talked about leadership in the corporate sector. What about in governments? What would you have different advices to new government leadership to make governments more efficient and more productive?
Well, I do know, as you just said, there's a lot of bureaucracy, a lot of structure. It makes achieving what one wants at times very difficult. But you also see those things in corporate worlds. You also see those things in nonprofit worlds. Maybe not the complete structure, but the willingness not to rethink things. And I would say the same skills, the same tenacity, the same commitment is what you apply, and not to differentiate and say this is a nonprofit world or government or corporation, but to take the basic principles of leadership, of achieving goals, and apply them. It may be harder. Let's be realistic. It may be harder. But I think the same principles for women winning. And go back to Eisenhower Fellows. Eisenhower was a great general, and he became a great president as a leader. So I think Colin Powell is another example, I think, of a man who was a great leader and could do that in the context of the government. But he would have been, I think, a great president as well. Whatever he wanted to do, and I'm glad he chose what he did, he would make a great impact. So maybe I don't have the answer, but I would say don't deviate from basic core principles.
Right. Marilu, this question is from Firas Al-Abdwani. And the question is, in today's world, where difference in opinion have become polar opposites and of equal size, whether it is Brexit or the political party in a given country, say the US, for example, and these issues impact the day-to-day informal interactions of workforce. What advice do you provide leaders in navigating this scene with their workforce and beyond it in the community?
Well, I think I have learned from the University of Chicago a very important model of freedom of expression and freedom of speech. That doesn't mean you attack the person, but you can attack an idea to make it better. And I think that type of thinking of encouraging people to look at an idea, respond, challenge, all within dignity and grace. That's the important piece of this. And I think you must have that in an organization, in a university, in a government, in the context of a family. Now, going back to my father, he wouldn't have been highly receptive to some of my ideas, but I do think he would have encouraged them within a certain range. So to try to answer the question, it is critical, particularly for a CEO, to have someone who will speak, as they say, truth to him or her, and to be surrounded by people that will challenge your ideas. Again, that is part of a culture. And I would strongly recommend it. And know when someone says, this is what I want, and be able to determine when it is fiction and when it's fact.
Marilu, thank you. I really, at the end, want to thank you so much for this amazing session. It is indeed inspiring to hear your authentic story, see firsthand how confident you are with no trace of arrogance, as you said. Your journey is an example of how leaders are made and shaped, the role of families, education, and careers. Many amazing lessons that our youth will for sure get value from for the rest of their life, starting from not allowing your academic scores to define your path. Don't wait too long to give back and share. I have no doubt that all our viewers will walk out of this session with an added value that will help them grow either personally or professionally. Thank you so much for your
I
leadership,
admire your
your
contributions.
inspiration, Marilo.
Thank you. And if anyone's in Chicago, I'd love to have lunch with them. So please give me a call.
Thank you very much. You may have many people knocking on your door, so be.
I have a big budget for that. I'm looking forward to it. It will only enhance my life.
Thank you very much. And for our viewers, thank you so much for your interaction. Looking forward to seeing you in the next session of Viewpoints. Goodbye.
Thank you.